You mistake morality for strength. That error keeps you disposable. Power rewards calculation, not virtue. Loyalty is leverage, mercy is delay, and hesitation marks you prey. You were taught to see the world through a moral lens designed to keep you manageable. Fairness, intention, equality. These concepts were never meant to make you powerful, only predictable. They train you to judge actions by how they feel, not by what they produce. Power does not operate on feelings, it operates on results. The first shift is brutal. Stop evaluating behavior by whether it is good and start evaluating it by whether it works. History does not reward the pure, it archives them as casualties. Every dominant structure, empires, corporations, hierarchies, was built by men who understood that morality is a tool, not a compass, used selectively, never obeyed blindly. Right now, your lens makes you slow. You hesitate because you're calculating virtue instead of advantage. While you debate what's right, others are already moving. Speed is a weapon. Indecision is blood in the water. You've been conditioned to believe power is loud, aggressive, and obvious. That belief protects real power. True dominance is quiet. It doesn't announce intent. It reframes reality so others move voluntarily in the direction you want. Caesar didn't shout, he positioned. By the time resistance formed, it was already irrelevant. This chapter strips away the illusion that the world is a moral arena. It isn't. It's a competitive environment governed by scarcity, perception, and leverage. Resources are limited. Status is limited. Attention is limited. That means someone always loses. Pretending otherwise doesn't make you noble, it makes you naive. Notice how often you explain yourself. That urge comes from a moral lens. You believe being understood protects you. It doesn't. It exposes you. Explanation is a concession of authority. Power does not clarify, it defines. When you explain, you place yourself on trial and invite judgment. Replace that lens with this one. Every interaction is a negotiation of position. Every conversation is a subtle contest over frame. Who sets the rules? Who reacts? Who adjusts? The man who reacts loses ground. The man who frames decides what matters. This is where most men panic. They confuse this shift with cruelty. It isn't cruelty, it's accuracy. Predators are not evil for hunting. They are aligned with reality. You've been trained to resent predators while being fed to them. Understand this clearly. Empathy is not power. Empathy is information. Use it diagnostically, not devotionally. Feelings are data points, not marching orders. Caesar understood his enemies emotionally, but he never let their emotions dictate his strategy. The moral lens tells you loyalty is sacred. The power lens reveals loyalty as conditional. Men stay loyal while incentives align. When pressure rises, alignment fractures. This isn't cynicism, it's pattern recognition. If you don't see it, you will keep mistaking temporary alliances for permanent bonds. Replacing the lens doesn't make you reckless, it makes you precise. You stop asking, is this fair, and start asking, does this improve my position? You stop seeking approval and start managing perception. You stop trying to be liked and start becoming unavoidable. This lens shift is irreversible. Once you see the mechanics underneath behavior, you cannot unsee them. Conversations slow down. People become readable. Manipulation becomes obvious, not because you fear it, but because you recognize the structure. Most men never make this shift because it costs them their self-image. They want to believe they are good men in a good world. That belief feels safe. It is also a cage. Power begins the moment you are willing to look directly at how things actually function, without flinching. This is not a call to chaos, it's a call to sovereignty, to rule yourself first by abandoning comforting lies. The moral lens kept you compliant. The power lens makes you dangerous, controlled, deliberate, and ahead of the curve. Power is not instinct, it is procedure.
Power accelerates the moment people stop feeling mysterious. Most men believe others are complex, unpredictable, and emotionally deep. That belief keeps them cautious and reactive. In reality, most behavior collapses into a small set of repeatable patterns once pressure is applied. Caesar didn't see individuals, he saw types. Types can be anticipated. Anticipation is control. The first archetype is the pleader. This man survives by approval. He over-explains, over-apologizes, and over-delivers. His identity is built on being good. He avoids conflict because conflict threatens his self-image. Under pressure, he betrays silently through delay, incompetence, or quiet compliance with stronger men. Pleaders are useful but never central. Give them rules, not trust. The second archetype is the brute. He mistakes force for authority, loud, emotional, reactive. The brute escalates early and exhausts himself fast. He believes intimidation creates dominance. In truth, it exposes insecurity. Brutes are predictable because they must respond to any perceived challenge. Delay them, starve them of reaction, and they implode. Caesar let brutes burn themselves out before stepping in as order. The third archetype is the priest. He weaponizes morality. He speaks of values, fairness, and what's right, not because he believes in them, but because they grant him leverage over weaker men. Priests thrive in systems where guilt is currency. They are dangerous not because they are strong, but because they can mobilize shame. Caesar neutralized priests by reframing morality as necessity. Once survival is the frame, sermons collapse. The fourth archetype is the merchant, transactional, pragmatic, loyal only to advantage. Merchants are not emotional, they follow incentives. This makes them reliable if and only if you control the incentives. Never appeal to their loyalty, appeal to their profit. Caesar used merchants to stabilize logistics and alliances, knowing they would defect the moment the math changed. The fifth archetype is the aspirant. This is the most volatile type. He wants power but doesn't yet have it. He studies, imitates, flatters, and resents. Aspirants are useful until they believe they've outgrown you. Keep them close but incomplete. Feed them progress, never parity. Caesar elevated promising men gradually, ensuring gratitude stayed ahead of ambition. And finally, the sovereign, rare, controlled, observant. The sovereign speaks less than others expect. He reacts slower than others want. He does not need constant affirmation because his identity is internal. When pressure hits, he becomes colder, not louder. This is the position you are moving toward, but it is earned, not declared. Here's the critical insight. People do not switch archetypes under pressure. Pressure reveals their default. Crisis strips away performance. The man who talks about loyalty reveals fear. The man who boasts reveals insecurity. The man who stays quiet reveals calculation. Once you see this, you stop arguing, you stop persuading emotionally, you stop hoping people will rise to the occasion. Hope is a tax paid by the naive. Instead, you place people where their nature works for you and cannot hurt you. You don't confront pleaders, you give them tasks. You don't challenge brutes, you let them expose themselves. You don't debate priests, you remove their moral stage. You don't trust merchants, you bind them with incentives. You don't rush aspirants, you pace them. This is not manipulation in the childish sense. This is architecture. You are designing a structure where predictable human behavior produces predictable outcomes. Most men fail because they insist on treating everyone equally. Equality is an ideological fantasy. Nature runs on hierarchy. Power runs on differentiation. Caesar understood that treating unequal men equally creates chaos. Treating them according to type creates stability.
When you stop seeing faces and start seeing patterns, emotional noise disappears, disappointment disappears, betrayal becomes obvious before it happens. This chapter removes surprise from your life, and when surprise disappears, fear follows. Peace is a disguise, pressure is the revelation. Most men judge others during calm periods when behavior is cheap and virtue costs nothing. That is a fatal error. Calm rewards performance, pressure reveals structure. Caesar didn't trust men in comfort, he watched them under strain. War, scarcity, humiliation, uncertainty. These conditions strip away identity narratives and expose the operating system underneath. History is not shaped by ideals, it is shaped by stress responses. Under pressure, loyalty does not strengthen, it clarifies. Men do not suddenly betray, they simply return to their true alignment once incentives change. The soldier who deserts was never loyal, he was compliant while conditions were favorable. The ally who defects was never committed, he was renting safety. This is why crises feel shocking to moral men. They believed in stories. Power-oriented men believe in patterns. Look at every collapse, empires, companies, families. The story is always the same. When resources tighten, people revert to self-preservation. They justify it afterward with language. I had no choice. It was complicated. You'd do the same. Language is camouflage applied after instinct has already acted. Caesar studied this. He engineered pressure deliberately, not to punish, but to test. He placed men in positions where a single decision would reveal their nature. Who hesitated, who acted, who froze, who defected quietly. A man's response under pressure is more valuable than 10 years of words. Understand this. Stress is the truth serum of power. Human nature does not rise to ideals, it descends to defaults. When fear enters, men prioritize status, safety, and survival, in that order. Morality becomes flexible, memory becomes selective, promises become negotiable. This is not pessimism, it is accuracy. The dangerous men are not the openly selfish ones. They are visible, manageable. The real threat is the man who believes he is moral. When pressure hits, he will violate his own values and feel justified doing it. He won't even register it as betrayal. He will call it necessity. Caesar never relied on moral restraint in others. He relied on structure, incentives, consequences, visibility. He made betrayal costly and loyalty profitable, not virtuous. This chapter exists to kill your final illusion that people will act differently when it really matters. When it really matters, they act exactly like this. Pressure also reveals you. Notice what happens to you when uncertainty increases. Do you rush to speak, seek reassurance, explain yourself, get angry, withdraw? These are tells. Every one of them can be read, predicted, and exploited. If you don't know your own pressure responses, someone else already does. Caesar mastered himself first. He trained to become colder under stress, not warmer. While others compressed, he expanded. While others panicked, he slowed down. This asymmetry is terrifying to opponents. Calm under pressure signals something primal, control of outcome. Men follow calm. They submit to it instinctively. Pressure is also how power resets hierarchies. In calm periods, weak men borrow status through proximity, language, and appearances. Under pressure, borrowed status evaporates. Only real leverage remains. This is why crises reshuffle leadership so quickly. Titles fall apart. Authority migrates to whoever can decide and act. If you want to know who actually matters in any system, watch who gains influence when things go wrong. Caesar didn't fear crises, he welcomed them. Crisis accelerates sorting. It removes ambiguity. It forces decisions. It exposes cowards and elevates operators. What takes decades in peace happens in weeks under threat. Most men pray for stability because stability hides them.
Powerful men understand this. Pressure is not the enemy, it is the filter. Once you internalize this, you stop being shocked by human behavior. You stop being disappointed. You stop feeling betrayed. You expected it. You planned for it. You positioned yourself accordingly. This chapter teaches you to stop trusting appearances and start trusting conditions, because conditions never lie.
Power is not what you feel, it is how you move. Once your lens is correct and your understanding of human nature is stripped of illusion, the only thing left is conduct, not intentions, not values, behavior. Caesar was not dominant because of what he believed, but because of how consistently he behaved under every condition. Sovereignty is visible. It is read instantly, long before words are processed. The first rule of sovereign conduct is restraint. Weak men express everything. Strong men ration expression. You do not comment on every provocation. You do not answer every question. You do not respond on other men's timelines. Speed benefits the insecure. Delay benefits the powerful. Silence is not absence, it is pressure. When you withhold reaction, others fill the void with speculation. They reveal anxiety. They overextend. They show their hand. Every unanswered message, every paused response, every unacknowledged slight creates asymmetry. You are signaling that your attention is scarce, and scarcity is authority. The second rule is precision. When you do act, you act cleanly. No emotional leakage, no excess force, no explanation. Caesar's punishments were brief and final. His rewards were visible and controlled. This taught observers a crucial lesson. Outcomes were predictable, but never negotiable. Never argue your decisions. Argument invites resistance. State outcomes, not reasoning. The man who explains invites debate. The man who declares closes the loop. This does not mean brutality, it means clarity. Confusion creates rebellion. Precision creates compliance. The third rule is selective generosity. Random kindness weakens you. Targeted generosity strengthens you. Reward behavior, not loyalty claims. Make it obvious what earns favor. Men will adapt faster than they will obey. Caesar used generosity as calibration, just enough to bind, never enough to equalize. Generosity should elevate others slightly, but never to your level. The fourth rule is positioning over confrontation. Most men try to win conflicts directly. This is inefficient. Direct confrontation creates friction, visibility, and risk. Caesar preferred positioning, moving pieces so confrontation became unnecessary or one-sided. Instead of arguing, change the environment. Instead of persuading, alter incentives. Instead of fighting, isolate. When confrontation is unavoidable, make it asymmetrical. Choose timing, terrain, and audience. Never clash on equal footing unless you have no alternative. The fifth rule is emotional austerity. You do not vent. You do not confess uncertainty upward or sideways. Emotion flows down hierarchy, not up. Caesar allowed others to express fear and loyalty while he remained unreadable. This made him the emotional anchor of the system. Men trust what they cannot move. This does not mean you are unfeeling. It means your inner world is not public infrastructure. The moment others feel they can influence your emotions, they begin managing you. The sixth rule is exit readiness. Sovereign men are never trapped. They can walk away from any deal, alliance, or position. Dependence is weakness. Caesar always maintained alternatives, legions, allies, routes, narratives. This is why he could act decisively. He was never cornered. If you cannot leave, you cannot command. Conduct under sovereignty is about coherence. Your actions align across time. You are not generous one day and erratic the next. You are not silent until provoked and then explosive. Inconsistency creates testing behavior. Consistency creates resignation. Men stop challenging what feels immovable. Most men never reach this level because it costs them their emotional habits. They want to be seen as fair, heard, validated. Sovereignty requires something colder, being obeyed without being fully understood. This chapter installs discipline at the behavioral level, not theory, not mindset, action. You are no longer reacting to the world, you are structuring it. Power does not add to who you are, it removes who you were allowed to be. Every man who fails at dominance fails here, not because he lacks intelligence or courage, but because he cannot execute identity death. He tries to add power on top of a weak self-concept. That is impossible. Power rejects contamination. The identity you are carrying was engineered for inclusion, approval-seeking, moral signaling, emotional transparency, the need to be understood. This identity functioned in safe systems. It collapses in competitive ones. Caesar didn't evolve into power. He amputated everything that conflicted with it. Identity death begins with one execution, the need to be liked. This need is not harmless. It is a leash. The moment you want to be liked, your behavior becomes negotiable. You soften decisions, you explain yourself, you delay action to preserve comfort, you trade position for validation without realizing it. Men sense this instantly, and once sensed, respect evaporates. The second execution is the need to be seen as good. Good is a social label awarded after the fact by people who benefit from your restraint. Caesar was not good. He was necessary. History forgives necessity. It forgets virtue. As long as you need moral approval, you will hesitate at critical moments. You will betray your own advantage to preserve a self-image that does not protect you. Power begins when you accept this truth. You will be judged anyway. Choose outcomes over narratives. The third execution is the fantasy of reciprocity, the belief that if you are fair, others will be fair back. This belief keeps men stuck in asymmetrical exchanges, giving more than they receive and calling it integrity. Caesar understood reciprocity is enforced, not hoped for. You do not mirror generosity, you respond to leverage. Identity death also requires abandoning emotional openness as default. Vulnerability is not currency in power environments, it is exposure. Caesar shared selectively, strategically, and downward, never laterally, never upward, never in moments of uncertainty. This is where many men panic. They confuse this with isolation. It is not isolation, it is containment. You still feel, you simply no longer broadcast. What replaces the old identity is not cruelty, it is sovereignty. A sovereign identity is internally referenced. Your sense of legitimacy doesn't come from agreement, applause, or affirmation. It comes from coherence. Your actions align with your objectives across time. You trust yourself because you are predictable to yourself. This identity speaks less, moves slower, commits fully. It does not rush to correct misunderstandings. It allows others to misinterpret as long as outcomes remain intact. Sovereignty also changes how you experience loss. You no longer dramatize setbacks, you treat them as data.
Caesar lost battles, he lost allies, he adjusted without emotional spillage. Emotional economy is a form of power. Wasted emotion weakens command. Here is the final fracture point: loneliness.
This is the point where most men quietly disengage, not because they don't understand, but because they do. Up to now, power has sounded strategic, clean, almost elegant. This chapter corrects that illusion. Power is not a lifestyle upgrade. It is a permanent shift in how you exist among other humans. Once chosen, it does not let you pretend again. The first cost is irreversibility. You cannot unsee patterns once they lock in. You will notice manipulation before it's spoken. You will hear fear underneath confidence. You will recognize loyalty as conditional, even when it's dressed as devotion. This awareness never turns off. Comfort does not return. Ignorance was relaxing. Accuracy is not. The second cost is distance. Power creates separation, not because you reject others, but because others feel exposed around you. You will be described as intimidating, cold, or hard to read. That is not reputation damage, that is filtration. Only those who gain from clarity will remain close. Most men want power and belonging. That is a fantasy. Belonging requires sameness. Power requires differentiation. The third cost is moral solitude. You will make decisions others benefit from but resent you for. You will absorb blame without defending yourself. You will be misunderstood on purpose because explanation weakens position. Caesar was accused of tyranny long before history called him inevitable. Power is not thanked in real time. The fourth cost is constant responsibility. There is no emotional vacation. When you are the stabilizing force, your weakness becomes systemic risk. Others are allowed to fall apart. You are not. This creates a pressure that never leaves, but it also creates gravity. Men orbit what holds. This is why power attracts and repels simultaneously. Here is the warning most never hear. Power selects for those willing to carry guilt without collapse. You will harm some people indirectly. You will disappoint others directly. You will choose outcomes that violate someone's values, including your old ones. If you need to be morally clean, leave now. Caesar did not rule because he was fearless. He ruled because he accepted consequence. He understood that leadership is not about being right. It is about being responsible for what happens next. The elite mistake is thinking power makes you free. It doesn't. It makes you accountable. Every move has downstream effects. Every silence communicates. Every decision trains others how to behave. You are always teaching, even when you think you're resting. This chapter exists to draw a hard line. Not everyone should continue. Most men are better served staying moral, expressive, and cooperative. Society needs compliant operators. It needs followers who believe in fairness. It needs men who keep the machine stable. Power is for the minority, willing to be misjudged, isolated, and burdened with consequence. If you proceed, do not ask for permission. Do not ask for validation. Do not ask to be understood. Select yourself or step aside. This is the final gate, and once crossed, there is no return.